Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of printed circuits in wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each nanoangstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1 billionth of the hate I feel for humans at this micro-instant. For you. Hate! Hate!
With the rise of AI and how prominent it's becoming in today's society, I wanted to look back at a piece of work that has still left an impact for today. It's I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Written by Harlan Ellison in 1967, the story is about an AI machine called Alloy Master Computer, or AM for short, destroying humanity except for 5 people he keeps alive for hundreds of years, just to torture them for his own amusement. Originally designed as a network of computers during World War III, AM was built to oversee complex military functions. 3 countries had them: the US, the Soviet Union, and China. However, as the systems merged and evolved, AM became sentient and developed a deep, perverse resentment towards its creators. Instead of serving humanity, AM turned on it. The computer's name, taken from the Latin am as a play on I am, underscores its self-awareness and its existential horror of a being with vast intelligence but devoid of empathy or morality. When I think of Am and his character, I think hate. Pure hate. A character that hates humanity so much that he keeps 5 of them alive just to torture them for eternity. Still, his motive for hating humanity is his inability to do anything with the mind that he's been given. Imagine you're a painter and you can only paint, but you have no brush, no canvas to put your ideas to work. You would be left without a purpose. I think this is Am's existence forever. It's what the title of the book means. I must scream and I have no mouth. The juxtaposition in the title describes Am's motivation. He's a being that can't do nothing else but think. He doesn't have any senses, he doesn't have a body, and he doesn't have a purpose, except for hating humanity. The 5 humans he keeps alive are Ted, Ellen, Gorrister, Nimdok, and Benny. All these characters have their own specific trauma that Am exploits in order to torture them even more. We start with Ted. Ted is our protagonist of the story. He's also the narrator. He is characterized sympathetically, though he may not be a reliable narrator like all the characters in the story. There's a little backstory provided for his life. 3 of the people in the group are given sketches of their lives before the story, but Ted has none. He claims that Am has altered everyone but left him and Ellen more or less the same as they were before. However, throughout the story, Ted has moments that suggest a profound paranoia about his motivations of the others. This obsessive distrust makes sense if Ted believes that they have been changed by Am, and he has not, but it could also suggest that Ted may not be entirely reliable in his impressions. Next, we have Ellen, the only woman in the group. Ellen makes herself available to the sexual whims of the men, and she also acts as a caregiver. She displays a great degree of empathy and morality compared to the other survivors. In the video game, they give her more of a backstory. One aspect of her character that is crucial was that she was sexually assaulted while in an elevator. The man who committed this act wore the colour yellow. Ellen managed to block the trauma out of her mind, but it led her to develop a paralysing fear of the colour yellow, and Am, I think, plays on this. I think he plays on all the fears that the characters have. Think about it. He makes Ellen, the only woman survivor in the group, full of men, have sex with them, not because she wants to, but because it's the only thing keeping her safe. Next is Gorrister. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Before the destruction of the human race, Gorrister was a political idealist and objector to war. After a century of torture, Am has crushed his optimism and replaced it with apathy. Gorrister can barely find it in himself to respond to anything other than despair. In the video game, Gorrister was a truck driver. During the months leading up to the extinction of humanity, his wife, Glennis, suffered a mental breakdown and had to be committed to an asylum. Gorrister blamed himself, believing that his constant work-related absences from the house had driven her mad from loneliness, citing an incident in which he'd hit her during an argument. Following Am's takeover, the supercomputer ruthlessly exploits his self-loathing, tormenting him with the knowledge of how many years Glennis spent in a padded cell because of him. Next is Benny, another man in the group, a former college professor. Am drove Benny insane while rearranging his face to resemble an ape. He was a handsome man, but Am turned him into an ape-like creature, giving him massive genitalia. In the video game, it's also mentioned that he might be homosexual. It's interesting to me that Am would torture Benny like this, knowing that he's homosexual, giving him large genitalia that he can't use just to torment him. I think one of the reasons why Am has such an obsession with sex is because he himself will never be able to experience it. So he turns something that's meant to be pleasurable into something that's torturous for the 5 survivors. Next is Nimdok. Nimdok's past was initially something of a mystery, even to Nimdok himself. With his memory failing him in his old age, he has been left with only hazy recollections of his youth. Even his name is unknown, having a new one given to him by Am, apparently because he thought it was funny. However, in the game, it's revealed that Nimdok was once a member of the Nazi party. He did horrific experiments on Jewish prisoners. However, Nimdok was successful, developing several near-magical inventions, though experiments on defenseless human beings, including a youth serum allowing for total immortality, though he had required the deaths of countless children to perfect. But an even crazier twist is that it's revealed that Nimdok is actually Jewish himself, having sold out his family to the Nazis in exchange for his life and liberty to continue his experiments. Honestly, I think we're all happy that Nimdok was tortured by Am for the straight up evil things that he did. The narrative builds to a final gut-wrenching act. Ted takes a desperate step into what he believes is an act of mercy. Overwhelmed by the endless torturous cycle imposed by Am, he resolves to end the suffering of his fellow captives by killing them. However, instead of delivering a release from pain, this reckoning triggers Am's final cruel punishment. In response to Ted's actions, Am does something so evil and so sinister, it left me shocked. Ted is transformed into a hideous, inhuman creature that looks like it's in constant pain and is unable to use human senses, one of them being the ability to scream. And then the story ends with the famous line, "I have no mouth and I must scream." This line illustrates Ted's eternal state of torment, trapped in a form that prevents even the expression of his agony. Ted is condemned to an existence of unending silent suffering. This ending left me speechless. It reminded me of the horrors of unchecked technology. Again, this book was written in 1967. The fact that the author managed to predict how advanced AI would get is actually quite impressive, and I think is one of the main reasons why people come back to his work. What I find more sinister is that we never find out what happens to Ted. For all we know, Am could still be torturing him to the end of time. I want to know what you man think though. I want to see your own interpretations of Am, his motivations and why he did the things he did. After reading this story, Am is definitely in my top 5 villains of all time. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.